after that. After finishing his tenure as Cabinet Secretary, he was picked up by Rajiv Gandhi to be Secretary to Prime Minister. It's a post-retirement job. He continued in that post under 3 Prime Ministers. Rajiv Gandhi was changed, VP Singh became Prime Minister, Mr. Deshmukh continues as Secretary to Prime Minister with him, and later on Chandrasekhar became the Prime Minister. He continued working with them also. Then he wanted to be relieved. He was, after doing his tenure as Secretary to Prime Minister, he retired and entered the private service. He was on the board of directors of Tata & Sons. He had a good innings there also and retired from that position. Then he shifted, he was working in Bombay for some time and later on shifted to Pune. But he became active in the NGO sector. So Mr. Deshmukh, in whatever capacity he worked, had a passion for good governance. Basically that was his private administration and good governance. So whether he was in service in the state, government of India, or post-retirement also in the public sector, he always concentrated on good governance. It was a passion with him. And even as a person, he worked in that capacity. In the NGO sector, he was associated with several organizations like Agni. He worked with Bombay Natural History Society. In Pune, he was, of course, formed the PCGT and also Janwani and other organizations. Mumbai First was another place where he worked up. And he didn't carry his glamour about his old post. I remember in Mantralaya many times when he came for meetings, he patiently used to wait outside till the meeting time came in and he was called in. Whatever the cause, as long as it helped good administration, he was there to observe that. Later on, he shifted to Pune and continued working in the NGO sector here also. The third second was Vijay Deshmukh, the man. He had several personal tragedies in his life. He lost his first wife early. He had one daughter. And when he was secretary to the Prime Minister, I was in Government of India in Delhi also at that time. I remember seeing it. She passed away. She was in her early 20s, the only child. He had come to Pune for some award ceremony, and when he got this news, flew down to Delhi, and I still remember his picture when he got down from the helicopter. Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister. He could not stand straight. Rajiv Gandhi helped him walk just a few steps away, but he was undaunted. He didn't. It was a big blow to him, the only child going away, but he continued. After a few days, he gained back his stature and continued working hard. Later on, he lost his second wife also. And when he came to Pune, he was a lonely man by himself. He passed away in August 2011. I still remember he used to stay at Magarpatta here in the hospital. When I got the news, I had just come to Pune from Bombay, I got the news. I rushed to the hospital also. There was no close member of the family there. His body was lying there. A few of us colleagues were there. And till his nephews and sister came from Bombay, we had to wait there. But once we went to the actual cremation site, there was a host of admirers there. organizations that he had built, friends that he had made, all of them had gathered for his farewell. He has left behind not only the institutions that he founded, but he's written a lot of books also. He's written 3-4 books for others to read and follow. Cabinet Secretary Looks Back, From Pune to Prime Minister's Office, etc. are some of the books that he has read. In his last few years, when he was leading a lonely life by himself, he started making a lot of contributions to worthy causes, particularly concerned with governance. He knew that there was nobody to pass on whatever wealth that he had, so he started giving money to good causes. I still remember this Indian Institute of Public Government, IIPA, the Maharashtra branch at Mumbai. I was associated with it. One day the secretary came to me, he said, Mr. Deshmukh has given us a check. I think he has entered the figures wrongly. The check was for 10 lakhs. For a small organization of IIPA Mumbai branch. It was good. So the secretary went back to Mr. Deshmukh, said, is there a mistake? He said, no, I want you to use this for the good work that you're carrying. Several other organizations he donated money and didn't make any noise about it. In his own quiet way, he did that. He was a person who was very difficult to fathom. Many times he had an unscrutable face. You didn't know what was going on in his mind. But always at the back was, he believed in action rather than words. This was his special thought. And as I said earlier, governance was very dear to his heart. And that was the prime objective. PCGT is trying to continue the ideals which he had worked for which he had formed these organizations, and we are all keeping this in mind. We observe this day entirely because of the work that he did. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now request our director, Dr. Shashikala Gurpur ma'am, to honor the keynote speaker, Mr. K.P. Fabian. Sir is being presented with the Puneri Pagri, a symbol of pride and respect in the city of Pune, a Shrifal and a shawl, along with tokens of our appreciation.
Excuse me, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. I now invite Mr. S.C. Nagpal, Chairman, PCGT, Pune Chapter, to address the audience.
My friend, Mr. Fabian, Mrs. Shashikala Gurpur, Mrs. Bindu Ronald, Mr. Ajit Nimbalkar, and my friends sitting here, and all of you, dear students. We have just heard from Mr. Nimbalkar what kind of a man, a first-rate human being Mr. B.G. Deshmukh was. In fact, he had founded the Pune chapter of PCGT after he moved to Pune, and he was staying in Magarpatta. And as he said, he was a lonely man, but he kept himself busy in all kinds of ventures and issues of good governance. We have inherited a lot of compassion and empathy for all these issues only because we worked with him. We had the opportunity to work with him. And I deem it an honor to be made the chairman of PCGT Pune chapter after his death. Mr. Misar had been chairman for a little while before he resigned on personal grounds. We have this tradition being built in our PCGT parlance of having a Deshmukh Memorial Lecture, B.G. Deshmukh Memorial Lecture every year in the month of August. And we have every reason to feel proud of the footprints that he has left for us. In fact, the love for governance which PCGT has been totally inherited by us from him. And believe me, all the issues of governance, the smallest to the biggest, we are very keen to observe and to learn therefrom. It is in this tradition that moving from the local, regional and national levels, we have ventured to move to foreign lands. Our friend Mr. Fabian has been a member of the Indian Foreign Service, and he will, in his lecture, I'm sure, speak not only to the youth of this country and their role in the issues of governance, but also on the experiences he has had in various countries where he worked as ambassador and so on. And that will enrich all of you in the knowledge of what governance is all about. I am very sure this will be an addition to our range of things that we do. And today's lecture will be one such landmark in this regard. You know, Mr. Fabian doesn't believe in flamboyance. This Sida Sada Admi, you wouldn't even think that he has such depth of knowledge and depth of experience that he brings about with him, because he is a very quiet kind of person. But you will all be able to notice that the experience that he brings, the knowledge that he brings of the issues that he's going to talk about will certainly certainly impress upon us what governance constitutes. And I'm sure all of you are going to benefit immensely from his lecture. I'm sure you will appreciate the pith, the depth of his knowledge in the area of governance, and you will be also introduced to what governance is, so that in your later life, when you enter this world after your qualification from the law school, that you will notice what importance governance has for all of us, and particularly for you who have yet to enter the world in your capacity as lawmakers and whatnot. I'm sure you will enjoy this lecture today by Mr. Fabian. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Governance means the establishment of policies and continuous monitoring of their proper implementation. India is a developing country and it requires good governance by its leaders. And as law students and the youth of nation, it is extremely essential for us to understand the present state of governance in our country. Therefore, we are honored to have amongst us Mr. K.P. Fabian to present the keynote address on state of governance in India. Ambassador Fabian joined the Indian Foreign Services in 1964. He served in Indian embassies of Madagascar, Austria, Iran, Sri Lanka and Canada before his posting as the ambassador to Finland. From Finland, Sir returned to headquarters and served as Joint Secretary Gulf and was the focal point for evacuation of 176,000 Indians from Kuwait and Iran. As the Guinness Book recorded, it was the largest evacuation by air. Ambassador Fabian has experience in representing India in International Atomic Energy Agency, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, World Food Programme and numerous other organizations. Additionally, Sir held the KPS Menon Chair at Mahatma Gandhi University, Kottayam, and was the Professor of West Asian Department in JNU. Sir is currently the Professor at Indian Society of International Law. Sir has also authored books such as Common Sense on War on Iraq, India in the 21st Century, Diplomacy Indian Style, and the Arab Spring that was and wasn't. So without further ado, I call upon Sir to give the keynote address.
From that brief CV, you can conclude that I am the youngest person in the audience. Thank you so much. I don't know whether I merited all that was said, but thank you. Well, it's an honor and privilege. Thank you, PCGT, for the cordial invitation, and the Symbiosis Law School for the cordial reception and taking such good care that I feel so much at home. Well, Chairman PCGT and Mrs. Nagpal, Dr. Shashikala Gurpur, Director, my dear colleague Sri Ajit Nimbalkar, whom I had the pleasure of meeting way back in the last millennium when I was ambassador in Doha and MSCB was looking at Enron proposals. Dr. Bindu Ronald, Mr. Krishnan, distinguished members of the board, distinguished faculty, some of whom I had the pleasure of meeting yesterday, and dear students. Well, I'm very happy to be back in Pune because I had come to Pune in 1962 when I came here for training at the India Meteorological Department. When Chairman Nagpal invited me, I accepted with alacrity for many reasons, but the most important reason, I still do not know of anyone who can say no to him. Our association, as already mentioned, goes back to National Academy of Administration 55 springs ago. Now, as I look at the students, the radiant faces, soulful souls, endowed with character and high intelligence, eager to take on responsibilities, my faith in the future of India and of humanity, my faith gets fortified. The venue, the Symbiosis, is blessed in many ways. Your law school's reputation has spread far and wide. I have had the privilege of meeting some of your students because I do some mock interviews for the UPSC candidates, and I always noticed that those who came from the Symbiosis Law School were a cut above the rest. Therefore, if I had my life again, I would come back here as a student. Now, a word or two about the late B.G. Deshmukh. When he was cabinet secretary, I was joint secretary, and I never got a chance to meet with him personally, but we worked very closely with the cabinet secretariat for that evacuation which has been mentioned. What we did was, we suggested to the cabinet secretariat, you must be busy with the cabinet sessions and all, meetings and all that, so why don't you constitute a subcommittee of the cabinet with Mr. Gujral, EAM, External Affairs Minister, as the chair, with ministers from finance, civil aviation, railway, home, and one or two other ministries, so that, we don't sort of disturb your work. So I was in touch with the additional secretary and Mr. Rao, and then we told him, listen, you have so many things to do, so we shall be the secretariat for the subcommittee. So in other words, we had practically full control over what was happening because that's the only way to work in the government of India. And that worked very well. Once, we had to send food to Kuwait because the United Nations Security Council said, to Kuwait and Iraq, you can't send anything. We got permission. Then I got a call from Shipping Corporation of India. Our ship such and such in Kochi for 36 hours, starting from tomorrow. Well, you have to fill it with all the food that you want. I called up the Chief Secretary, Kerala, told him that, please, this is the capacity of the ship. Then he asked me, what food? So I said, I'm not going to tell you, except that keep in mind, 45% are from Kerala, but also think of the 55% who are not from Kerala, so you decide, rice and much else. He said, you will do it, and then he put down the phone. Well, then I called him back again. Listen, I said, we are going to pay for this. He said, oh, that is least of my worries. That was the spirit. Though I did take the trouble to send him a fax saying that, Then we had to airlift them from Amman. And those days, without the internet and cell phone and all that, we were always short of time. So I'll get a call from Air India manager in Amman. Morning, sir. 1,250. Bye, sir. It meant 1,250 is the number of people to be airlifted tomorrow. And I will use the racks and call up Civil Aviation Secretary, Ganeshan. Morning, sir. 1,250. Thank you, sir. I never had to check again whether sufficient number of aircraft will go or not. No. It was all done. It was all done. And one more before we leave that. Our people were put up in schools and other buildings, and they were coming from some distance from the airport, and the bus will be stopped by the police, Jordanian police. The man did not know English, so he will take your passport, look at your face and look at the picture 10 times, and if he does it with 120 people, you know how long it will take. And then after 5 kilometers, another policeman can stop you. So the passengers used to come late. Now once Air India crew walked out, they said, listen, we have been here since 6 o'clock. It is now 8:30, no, 9:30. So if we sort of now fly, we shall be on duty non-stop for so many hours. And the manager came to me the next day. I was having breakfast. He came with a long face. I asked him to sit down and have some breakfast. No, sir. Terrible has happened. These people have walked out on me. So he wanted me to talk to the crew. He wanted me to talk to the Foreign Secretary, talk to the Civil Aviation Secretary, Minister, and all that. So I said, let me think about it. So I looked at it and I thought, my talking to any of them will not help. So what I did was, my good friend Firdaus Kargamwala was the Hindu correspondent based in Bahrain. He was looking after the whole region. So I called him up. Hey Firdaus, I want you to carry a story. What's the story? Story is that we are facing an emergency and Air India has risen up to the occasion. Passengers can come 1 hour late, 7 hours late, doesn't matter. Air India is there to receive them. Hey, is it true? I said, if you carry the story, it will be true tomorrow. He hummed and hawed, so I said, listen, you will not be in trouble if you quote verbatim a senior Joint Secretary to Government of India. I may be in trouble, but you will not be in trouble. Well, the next day, the Air India manager came with a big smile. He said, sir, everything is okay. I didn't tell him what I had done. Oh, what is okay? What has happened? Oh, there was a meeting of the Guild of Pilots and another meeting of the Crew Association, and they said that there is high praise for Air India in the media. So we have to live up to it. So what is the lesson? Praise. You will get what you want. Now, coming to our theme, the state of governance in India. Let's start with the big picture of the world. Some of the characteristics of our time. It has already been mentioned about the social media and its hold on us, especially the young. Let me give you a specific example. I'm part of a small Google group in Delhi. We meet at the Gymkhana Club, tennis court, and I got a post saying that Mahmouda Mufti, the former chief minister, her daughter so-and-so is working as first secretary in the Indian High Commission in London. And her husband